This is Rulu's World Television. Welcome to News Topup, your weekly recap of trending stories. I am Mulishola Yanolua.
In Abuja today, prominent activist and publisher Omoyele Sowore has been released from Kuje Correctional Center after spending 4 days in detention. He walked out on Monday, October 27, 2025, following his arrest for participating in the Free Nnamdi Kanu Now protest. He was arrested along with lawyer Aloy Ejimako, the younger brother of Nnamdi Kanu, Emmanuel Kanu, and 11 others during the demonstration in the Federal Capital Territory. On Friday, October 24, 2025, the Kuja Magistrate Court granted bail to all 14 defendants at 500,000 naira each, subject to conditions including verified national identification number (NIN), 3-year tax clearance certificates, and surrender of international passports. After fulfilling these bail conditions, Sowore and the other defendants were free from Kuje prison on Monday. His legal team has vowed to continue advocating for freedom of expression and has called for accountability in cases involving activists. In Abuja, President Bola Tinubu has revoked the presidential pardon earlier granted to Miriam Sanda, who was sentenced to death in 2020 for the killing of her husband, Bill Yaminu Bello. According to a government gazette titled Reduced Terms, released on Wednesday by the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, Sanders' sentence has now been reviewed to 12 years imprisonment. The document explains that the decision was made under Section 175 of the 1999 Constitution and follows consultation with the Council of State. Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Lateef Fagbemi San confirmed that the President ordered a review after receiving a public concern about the initial pardon. He said the review aimed to ensure fairness and due process, adding that some names were delisted while others had their sentences reduced. Sanda, who has already spent 6 years and 8 months at the Suleja Medium Security Custodial Center, will now serve the remainder of her term based on what the government described as compassionate grounds and good conduct. The president also directed that the Secretariat of the Presidential Advisory Committee on Prerogative of Mercy be moved to the Federal Ministry of Justice with new guidelines to ensure transparency in future clemency exercises. The initial pardon sparked nationwide backlash from opposition parties and public figures, including former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, who described the move as a dangerous affront to justice and morality. In other news, Nigerians continue to demand justice for Ochanya Elizabeth Opanje, the 13-year-old girl whose tragic story has sparked nationwide outrage. Ochanya from Boko in Benue State died in October 2018 following years of alleged abuse by her uncle and his son. Reports indicate the abuse, which lasted for several years, left her with severe medical complications, including vesicovaginal fistula. Since her death, civil society organizations, women's groups, and professional associations across Nigeria have been calling for accountability. In 2018, the Nigerian Medical Association asked the federal government to ensure justice, while the governor of Benue State promised that the law would take its course. Despite this call, a family has criticized the handling of the case, arguing that the court rulings overlook key evidence, including an autopsy and dying declaration. Organizations such as the National Human Rights Commission have also condemned the abuse and continue to advocate for the perpetrators to be held responsible. The case remains a stark reminder of the ongoing challenges in protecting children from sexual abuse and the urgent need for stronger enforcement of child protection laws in Nigeria. Activists and citizens alike continue to demand justice for Chanya, keeping her story in national spotlight even years after her death. In our traffic update, a multiple vehicle crash has caused severe gridlock on the Lagos Ibadan Expressway. The incident occurred at the Kara Bridge access near the Lagos Ogun border on Thursday, October 29, 2025. Reports indicate that several heavy vehicles, including a container laden trailer, were involved. One trailer reportedly caught fire, another spilled its load, and a third tipped into the river after hitting the barrier. Authorities confirmed that at least 8 people have died, including a police inspector. Where traffic remains heavily congested for several kilometers, motorists are advised to avoid the area as emergency responders from LASMA, the Federal Road Safety Corps, and the police work to clear the scene. Preliminary reports suggest that the brake failure on one of the trailers may have contributed to the chain of collisions, highlighting ongoing safety concerns for heavy vehicles on Nigeria's busiest ways. The Lagos Ibadan Expressway crash underscores the risks facing motorists and freight operators, and investigations are ongoing as authorities manage the traffic backlog and assess the full impact of the incident. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on Thursday approved the appointment of new service chiefs, marking another major shakeup in Nigeria's military hierarchy. The new military heads are General Olufemi Oluyede, appointed as the Chief of Defense Staff, Major General Waidi Shaibu as the Chief of Army Staff, Rear Admiral Idi Abbas as the Chief of Naval Staff, and Air Vice Marshal S.K. Aneke as the Chief of Air Staff. Also retained in his position is Major General Emmanuel Ndaideye, who continues to serve as the Chief of Defense Intelligence. The appointment come amid ongoing security challenges across the country, including insurgency in the northeast, banditry in the northwest, and separatist tensions in the southeast. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu explained that the new service chiefs were chosen based on their proven experience, leadership capacity, and dedication to national service. He charged them to demonstrate professionalism and work in synergy to defend the nation's territorial integrity and restore lasting peace. Meanwhile, reactions have continued to trail the development as security analysts describe the appointment as timely and strategic. They expressed optimism that the new leadership will bring renewed vigor, discipline, and innovation to the ongoing fight against insecurity. The newly appointed service chiefs has assumed full command of their respective formations immediately as the nation look forward to the improved coordination and result in the war against terrorism and other forms of crime. And on foreign story, Cameroon is once again gripped by political turmoil following its October 2025 presidential election, an event that has exposed the deep divisions and fragile foundation of the Central African nation's democracy. The election, held on 12th October, was seen as a crucial test of the country's democratic institutions and of the endurance of President Paul Biya, Africa's oldest and longest serving head of state. At 92 years old, Biya, who has ruled since 1982, sought a record eighth consecutive term in office. His main challenger, Issa Chioma Bakare, a former government minister and opposition leader, campaigned on promise of reform and accountability. His main challenger, Issa Chioma Bakare, a former government minister and opposition leader, campaigned on promises of reform, accountability, and generational change. But from the outset, the electoral process was marred by tension and mistrust. According to official figures released by the Constitutional Council, Biya secured 53.66% of the vote, while his main rival, Isachiroma Bakare, gained 35.19%. Several other candidates trailed far behind. Chiroma immediately rejected the result, claiming massive irregularities and alleging that the election was neither free or fair. His party insists that its parallel vote count shows him in the lead. The Constitutional Council dismissed all opposition petitions alleging fraud or vote manipulation, commenting Biya's victory and triggering widespread public anger. In the aftermath of the announcement, demonstrations erupted in major cities, including Yaoundé, Douala, and Gawa. Protesters carried placards demanding Biya's resignation and calling for new election. Security forces responded with tear gas and live ammunition to disperse crowds. At least 4 people were killed, according to early reports from local human rights groups, while hundreds have been detained. Authorities also imposed restriction on internet access and social media platforms during and after the vote count, a move widely condemned by digital rights and advocates as an attempt to suppress dissent and control information flow. In Douala, Cameroon's economic capital, daily life has been heavily disrupted. Roads were blocked with burning tires and markets and schools were temporarily shut down. People are angry, said the protester who requested anonymity for safety reasons. We voted for change, but they have stolen it from us again. Cameroon's political crisis has drawn concerns from international actors. France, the country's traditional ally, issued a statement expressing deep concern over the violent repression of peaceful protests and urging authorities to respect human rights. The African Union and several Central African regional bodies have called for restraint and dialogue between the government and opposition. However, Biya's administration has shown little willingness to compromise or open discussions on electoral reform. The government insists that the elections were fair and that order must be restored before any dialogue can begin. The election has deepened existing divides in Cameroon, where long-standing grievances continue to fester. The Agnophone crisis, which has seen years of conflict between separatist groups and government forces in the northwest and southwest regions, remains unsolved. The crisis, combined with youth unemployment, economic stagnation, and perceptions of government corruption, has eroded public trust in national institutions. Analysts say Biya's re-election may bring short-term continuity but poses long-term risks. This result consolidates power in the hands of the same political elite that has ruled for over 4 decades, says Dr. Agatha Nsam, a political analyst at the University of Yaoundé. The legitimacy gap between the government and the population is widening, and that is dangerous for Cameroon's stability. As of now, President Biya remains president elect, expected to be sworn in for another 7 year term in early November. Security forces remain deployed across major cities, while opposition groups are calling for continued peaceful demonstrations. Observers warn that without meaningful dialogue or reform, Cameroon's political crisis could deepen into sustained instability, a scenario that would have grave implications for Central African space and economic outlook. For now, Cameroon remains a nation on edge, its streets tense, its citizens divided, and its future uncertain.
That's all for this week. For more trendy stories, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rulus World Television. Once again, I'm Olushola Yanolua. Thanks for watching.